Mic check 1 2. May have sound now. Peace to the chat. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay. Sound is on. So, how y'all doing, everybody out there tonight? I am being told that the sound is right. So, I'm hitting the live buttons on all my other devices. I am now live. What's going on, everybody? We are live on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok tonight. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Welcome to the show. This is Shabazz with the proper perspective. If you're tuning in on anything other than YouTube, I would appreciate it if you came on over to YouTube. Shout out to D Burp on TikTok. Shout out to anybody on Instagram. I'm sorry, D Burp on Instagram and anybody on TikTok. If you come over to youtube.com/ at the proper perspective, then you get the full scale treatment, so to speak. You get I'm sharing my screen tonight and we're going over some things as it relates to hidden facts about Black history. Now, some of you may already know it and some of you may not. I'm sure some don't. So we're going to start off the show with talking about the Statue of Liberty, and we're going to get into some politics. But before we do any of that, especially since I like to wait to give a little bit of time for the rooms to populate and the notifications to go out, I'm gonna share my screen and play my theme.
Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective.
So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Welcome to the proper perspective podcast. I'm sure you can hear me and see me on TikTok and Instagram. It may not be the best view. I'm live on youtube.com/ at the proper perspective. I got a question for you. Did you know the Statue of Liberty was supposed to be ours? That's my question. Did you know the Statue of Liberty was supposed to be ours? Ours is in not Americans. Ours is in Black Americans, specifically Black Americans. Tonight we are unveiling the hidden history of the Statue of Liberty, and this is a call to action, a call to awareness, a call to open up your minds and pay attention. This is something I'm sure they're not teaching you in school. And for all those people that say, Black history, it's more than just a month. Yeah, I know that. I'm starting off this month. But it's funny to me that people say that. Then in March, they don't want to hear no Black shit. March come around and, oh, you too Black. Why you always got to focus on the Black? Then when February Black History Month come around, they be like, well, February ain't the only month we should be studying Black history. Y'all need to make up your minds. Or do you just like repeating sound bites? But anyhow, we're talking about the Statue of Liberty. So welcome to tonight's lecture. Now, if you saw the thumbnail, because I posted late yesterday and said this is what I was going to be talking about. So if you saw the thumbnail and you thought the Statue of Liberty was always about welcoming immigrants, welcoming them with open arms, now this ain't no MAGA call. Congratulations, everybody. You fell for one of history's greatest bait and switch scams. The same type of bait and switch scams that orangutan and muskrat is doing today. The truth is, Lady Liberty was not built for Ellis Island. She was built for us, Black people, African Americans, Africans in America, FBA, ADOS, maybe even those pretendians. But they don't like to talk. They think they belong on the reservation. But yes, the Statue of Liberty was built for us, Black people. That's right. The towering green goddess standing in New York's harbor was originally supposed to be a monument to the abolition of slavery, not an Instagram backdrop for tourists in I Love New York shirts. But America, or like Tupac used to say, but America, in its usual fashion, decided that truth was too inconvenient. So they grabbed their historical erasers, they grabbed their historical etch a sketches and started shaking things up. And what do you know? All of these truths have now disappeared. Like I said, welcome to the Proper Perspective Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. If you come on over to youtube.com/@the-proper-perspective, then you get to see these screen shares when I do. But as I proceed, I'd like to give a shout out to some folk that are in the chat room or observing. Let's see. DJ Cal 71 is in the house. BS Arnold is in the house. Kevin Jones is joined. These are all my TikTok folk. I appreciate your presence. I would so much rather you come on over to youtube.com, but we're gonna do what we do. Shout out to Mogon Shore on TikTok. I'm sorry, on Instagram. Excuse me, because it's been a rather odd weather day, and the weather has been playing games with the largest organ on the body, my skin. But anyhow, so in this next section, I want to introduce you to just a little tidbit of history. In the 1860s, there was this French abolitionist. Now, I know I'm just as shocked and surprised as you are. I'm the last person to think that France would be doing anything for Black people, because they love to run ripshod over all Black people, especially on the continent. But the France of today is not necessarily the France of yesteryear. And actually what I should say, but just because France is a colonizing country doesn't mean that there aren't some woke or conscientious people in France today or in the yesteryears. So in the 1860s, French abolitionists, and excuse me if I messed this name up, because it is a French name and I never learned French. So it looks like Edouard, but it's actually supposed to be pronounced Edouard René de la Boule. Edouard René de la Boule. Now, if you're from Louisiana, you might that might be able to roll off your tongue a whole lot easier than it does for me with the Creole jumping off. But that's I'm from VA. We don't do the Creole that much, so my tongue's kind of lazy. But Edouard René de la Boule had a vision. He wanted a grand monument. He wanted to celebrate the end of slavery, at least in the United States, or especially in the United States. The man was a hardcore Lincoln fanboy. He was way up there with those radical Republicans. He loved what they was doing. So much so that he pushed for a statue that would symbolize freedom and the breaking of the chains of oppression. It was his golden child. It was his golden project. Now, he worked with a sculptor named Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. They took on this project. They designed an early version of the statue with, guess what? It wasn't the lily white mistress that we see today. It was a Black woman holding broken shackles in her left hand. That's the original design. Now, if you're big on TikTok history, if you're big on, what is it? If you heard about Hillman TikTok or Hillman Talk, you may have already seen this information, or at least some of this information, but not all of it. Now, I found one particular post on TikTok that really grabbed my attention, and I was going to share it. But before I share it, let me Let me do some research. Let me go do some digging. So I'm gonna share this with you and make sure we on the same page. Now I ain't taking no pot shots at nobody, but I am trying to correct some misinformation that's out there. Sometimes you got to be careful with these YouTube, with these TikTok posts, because they mean well, but they don't necessarily do justice. Now, what do I mean by that? Here we go. I'm getting ready to share my screen. It's a very interesting piece of history. It's just taken out of context and misappropriated. So let's see. What are we going to do? Where are we? We'll put this over there. There we go. So as we get ready to share this screen, bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, if you're on TikTok or Instagram, you're not going to be able to see what I'm sharing on the screen. You might not even be able to hear it. So it would behoove you, if you're really interested in this information, come on over to youtube.com/at the proper perspective. But as I share my screen, you can see this is a TikTok page. I got the sound on, and I'm going to play this. It's a real short clip, so I'm going to play this.
The first Statue of Liberty in USA was an African American called Lady Liberty. This statue was made in 1848. She was from Gold Coast.
So this little video here, let me see if I can, here we go. Get up on the screen just a little bit. Okay, shout out to some people that have joined the chat. Peace to Amber J. So before I go any further, let me see what Amber J is offering to the community. If he was for abolishing slavery, why have a giant slave statue? Let's see, if he. Now, okay, Amber J, I'd love to entertain this thought. Which he are you talking about? The sculptor or the president? I'm not too sure. But that's an interesting question. So Amber J says, if he was for abolishing slavery, why have a giant slave statue? Let's see. So again, okay, hopefully we can entertain this question a little bit further. But let me go back to this TikTok video. Again, the TikTok video says the first Statue of Liberty in the USA was an African American called Lady Liberty, and was made in 1848 in what was then called the Gold Coast. Now, for those of you who don't know, what they called the Gold Coast back then is what we call Ghana today. So what they call Gold Coast back then is what we call Ghana today. So the TikTok post says that the first Statue of Liberty was made in Ghana, and it was of an African American woman called Lady Liberty. Now, this is very interesting, and it doesn't necessarily sound surprising. Like if you're familiar with, if you're in these pro-Black conscious community streets, then you would be like, well, that resonates and makes sense, because America's always covering up the truth anyhow. So it sounds like a reasonable estimation of things that really go down. Now, so in that respects, I'm like, okay, shout out to whoever made the TikTok post. And there's some, if the overall idea and intent is, we want to get you digging, we want to get you to look this stuff up so you know who's really doing what, then A for effort. But if the intent, if the goal, if the idea was historical accuracy, your history teacher might be a little disappointed in you. Now, why do I say that, and what do I mean by that? Okay, I'm gonna go there. But before we go there, let me check back in with Amber J. So Amber J is talking about the Frenchman. So the Edouard René de La Boule, and Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. So she says if these two Frenchmen was really interested in, if they were really trying to honor and celebrate abolishing slavery, why have a giant slave statue? Okay, now obviously I can't speak for the two dead white guys, but here's my idea. Here's my idea. Since they were building a statue, creating a statue that wanted to honor the abolition of slavery, uh, it would seem slightly reasonable that whether they chose a man or a woman, they were going to choose an African, enslaved African American, a black person as the model. And since it was supposed to be the celebration of the end of slavery, at least up until that time, the whole world, definitely Europe, definitely America, their only portrait of black people were of us in chains. So to celebrate it, take those chains and make sure that you can see that they're being broken. That's my take on it. That's how I look at it. I look at it like it's celebrating the end of slavery because they were showing the chains have now been broken. But again, like I said, I can't walk through the corridors in the crevices of the mind of the two white guys. I can simply report to you, the historical record as it is. Now, I'm not too sure what Amber J means by church. Now, so we'll see. But as I continue, as I go on and move forward, shout out to Torch 1108 on Instagram. And if anybody else has joined the stream on TikTok, peace, family. How y'all doing tonight? Appreciate it if you came to youtube.com/@theproperperspective and join the chat. But as we proceed, so what I was saying earlier, appreciate that, Amber J. What I was saying earlier is the TikTok video is an interesting video, but it's pretty much a false claim. Especially when you get into the nitty-gritty of it. Now, there was another statue that was supposed to be representative of the ending of slavery. And one could say, well, it was in the Americas. Now, depending on how you feel about those geographical facts, some of us in the Black community want to say that America is just us. And they'll say the contiguous 48 states, those of us from the southern plantations of Uncle Sam's Dominion and the Confederate South. Some of us who have a more worldly or global view would say that the Americas, based on geography and what they teach you in basic high school classes about geography, would say that the Americas includes Canada, the contiguous 48 states, plus the 2 or 3, depending on your political persuasion, extra states that have been thrown into the Union, plus Mexico, plus the Caribbean island nations, plus the whole block of, if I didn't want to say continent, that geography down south called South America. So if you say that there was a statue erected about the ending of slavery in the Americas before there was Lady Liberty in New York, then you might be historically accurate. But if you say that statue was in the United States of America, your history teacher is going to be very mad at you. Might want to throw his or her history book at you, because that's just not necessarily the truth. Now, I'm going to go on over to this Black historian who has done the research. And I'm going to pull his site up, or one of his sites. Here we go. So now let me clear my throat and share my screen. Appreciate that, Amber J, for saying good take on what I said about the methodology behind trying to erect a statue. But let me see. So as I shared my screen, let me pull this on over to the right place. So now this, what I have on the screen now is a comparison. Now you may not have heard of this guy, Tyler Stovall. He is a black FBA, since some people want to say it's FBA or nothing. He is an FBA, born in America, black person, African American, historian, scholar. Now, amongst all other types of things that he's dug into, he has a couple of exposés on white freedom and the Lady of Liberty. Now, it's interesting because here's where the confusion might arise when, for whoever made or whoever's spreading the TikTok style video, there was a statue called Lady Liberty. But the statue called Lady Liberty is really, the whole title is Lady Liberty of Freedom Point on the island of St. Martin. And where is St. Martin? That's one of those Caribbean nations of the Americas. So if you do the research, as Tyler Stovall did, this statue on the left is definitively of a black woman. Now, I can't speak to, because I don't see it in there, I can't speak to the presence of the chains. So for those of you who might feel like, I don't want to see no chains or no statues celebrating black people, calm down. Then take a look at the St. Martin statue and you get your way. Rather than chains, what they used was a light to represent shining the light towards the future. But again, this was not in the United States of America. And the historical document, the historical record says, Figure 1, the Statue of Liberty in black and white. At left is Lady Liberty of Freedom. Of Freedom Point on the island of St. Martin. A public sculpture by Theodore Bonneve that was installed in 2007, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is why history is important. Because, you know, the person that did the TikTok is telling us that this Lady Liberty statue was in the 1860s. This statue was built in 2007. Some have mistaken photographs of this sculpture as depicting the original Statue of Liberty, which is the one on the right. I'm sorry, it just isn't true. But that doesn't mean that there isn't some truth to the actual Statue of Liberty that we see on the right as something that was supposed to be celebrating us and not the Ellis Island immigrants of yesteryear or today. No. We still own that. Just correcting the record. So, as I said, this is the correct identification is that statue that looks like a straight black woman, complete up and down. That's in St. Martin. So gather up get your passports together. Get your passports together and take a trip if you want to see it live and in indirect fashion. Shout out to D52 Jenkins who joined on Instagram. Let's see. So now, as I proceed, correct. Amber J is correct. 1848 was the French Revolution. So again, that would also speak to why you end up with a few open-minded French people. They got rid of some of their oligarchs, as we seem to be struggling with our new ones today. So here's where history takes a hard left turn. After, let me get this name right, after De La Boule and Bartholdi showed their plans and designs, America got their feelings hurt, like Ron DeSantis in Florida. The US government still clutching its pearls, trying to hold on to its post Civil War fragility, like a tattered Confederate flag. Oh yeah, the palm-colored people, the envelopians in DC, had a hissy fit meltdown. They said, "Your designs are to highlight slavery's end." Absolutely not. That might upset some white folks still reminiscing about the good old days of forced labor. Ah, y'all heard of white tears? Y'all heard of white tears? Here we go. So let me get this on the screen the proper way. Stop sharing my screen so I can get this up. Okay, so in a move dripping with white fragility, they yanked the broken chains from her hands, stuck a tablet in their place, and shifted the narrative to immigration. Now, clearly I'm being satirical, but they did let those two white Frenchmen know, you're going to have to go back to the drawing board on that one, though. And so what we see today in the New York horror is what they came up with after that, after being told, we ain't doing that. We ain't about that life. We had the freedom, but we ain't got to celebrate having the freedom. Interestingly enough, the chains are still there. It's going to be hard to see them if you're just looking at photos, because most people that take pictures, by nature, they're going to be interested in the wide pan shot, and they're going to be interested in trying to get the face and trying to get the torch. You look down at the bottom of them feet, and that's where you see them chains still there, almost hidden. What a metaphor. Almost hidden, like an inconvenient truth that America prefers to step over or just ignore. So that's that's it in a nutshell. Now, of course, we're gonna go deeper. We're gonna go deeper with this. Amber J says, clear tears. Yes, indeed. Now, what we're gonna go deeper with, I'm gonna talk about the symbolism and the weaponization of imagery. Why am I gonna talk about that? There was a very powerful sister who is now an ancestor. And I covered her about a week, 2 weeks ago on this show. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, a renowned psychiatrist and scholar. Now, she explored how symbols are utilized within systems of oppression. She argued that certain symbols are co-opted to maintain and propagate white supremacy. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that she specifically spoke on the Statue of Liberty. I'm saying she created a framework. And when you understand that framework, then you can understand why they had to cover up the truth about the Statue of Liberty. Her seminal work, The ISIS Papers, in which she stated, most important, now she said males, but I'm telling you, it's not just about males. Black males, black people must help one another to understand that they are being led by the dynamic of white supremacy to inflict extreme damage upon themselves. Now, when you spread misinformation, and when you do it deliberately, and when you do it knowing that it is untrue, you are inflicting extreme damage upon your people. Now, I'm not saying that the TikTok video was done deliberately. I'm just saying. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing went on to say the destruction of blacks, she said males, but she's talking about both of us. The destruction of blacks now is indirect. We're no longer in an era where the Ku Klux Klan is, at least I hope, the Ku Klux Klan is going to come riding down the street in white sheets with crosses ready to set them afire. No, the racism is more indirect today. The white supremacy is more indirect today. Maybe in your face, but it's still indirect. Elon, Felon, Elon. So that the black male victims, so that the black female victims themselves can be led to participate in and then be blamed for their own mass deaths. So this is some of now. So this is some of what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was speaking on. But this specifically speaks to the framework of how you need to look at things. So this Statue of Liberty, something that was supposed to represent the ending of slavery, the liberation and freedom of the African in America. And they turned it into a symbol of send us your huddled masses. Because they always need to cover up things. Now, so what I'm saying is this perspective of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's suggests that the transformation of the Statue of Liberty's meaning is not merely a benign evolution, but a deliberate act to obscure Black America's struggles and contributions. By altering the statue's narrative, the systemic focus shifts away from the realities of racial injustice, thereby maintaining existing power structures. So again, in other words, symbols matter. You know, yeah, we like to say Black Lives Matter. Symbols matter. They use these symbols to perpetuate the same oppression and suppression of Black people. Not just Black people, not only Black people, but hey, I can't fight for everybody. Anybody that wants to join the fight with me, you want to join the fight with us, that's fine. But you know, it's not too often that you hear other people including us in the fight when they're fighting, unless they desperately need us. But we dig deeper. Now, if you're familiar with my show, then you know I've covered this next scholar as well. If you're in these pro-Black, Afrocentric, woke streets, then you already know who she is. Dr. Joy Degree, a prominent scholar who has been instrumental in bringing this buried history to light. So not only did Tyler Stovall do some extensive work on this, Dr. Joy Degree did extensive work as well. During a visit to the Statue of Liberty, she observed the absence of narratives highlighting its original significance. She already knew. So when she went to visit. Like me, I've been in New York many a time. I used to love the idea of New York. I used to love going to New York. Never once did I say, I want to go see the Statue of Liberty. Now, why is that? Because all throughout my schooling years, I was taught, I was well under the impression, behind the veil, that the Statue of Liberty was about the immigrants. Well, it ain't got nothing to do with me. So Dr. Joy Degree, after finding out, discovering, and doing the research, she visited the Statue of Liberty. She observed the absence of narratives highlighting its original significance. Dr. Degree emphasizes that acknowledging this truth is crucial for an accurate understanding of American history and the systemic efforts to obscure the contributions and struggles of African Americans. Now, this is another reason why it blows my mind. It bugs me out. You know, when February comes around, a few of us, we get on the stick. I'm guilty of it. A few of us get on the stick. Hey, what we going to learn about in Black history this year? And then you always got the unwoke, the loud woke, who ain't really woke, who jump up and down and say, why y'all doing it in February? You know it's the shortest month. They gave us the shortest month. Black history is about more than February. Look, first off, at the end of the day, they didn't give us jack. We took February. Carter G. Woodson started this in February because he wanted to honor and recognize Frederick Douglass. And when more of us started to jump on the bandwagon and say, yes, we want to do this, we want to work on in a fashion very similar to today's critical race theory efforts. Let's correct the record. We said, well, we're going to do this for longer than what Carter G. Woodson started it as a 1 week thing. We came along after him and said, no, we're going to do this all month. Now, I'm all for the idea of not only doing this in the month of February, but only if we're serious. If you want to hoot and holler about why is it in the shortest month, pick up a book and read to find out why it is in February. If you want to hoot and holler about why do we only do this in February, then are you going down to your local school board meetings to tell them change the curriculum? Or are you just jumping online to say, well, I heard such and such say it, so I'm going to say it too? We can do it in many more months than February. We can do it officially. We can do it unofficially. We can do it directly. We can do it indirectly. But that's on us. But stop trying to castigate people for paying attention in February if that's all they know. So again, we got Tyler Stovall, who's done research. We've got Dr. Joy Degree, who's done research. So that's my shout out to an elder. That's my shout out to an ancestor, or two elders and one ancestor. Now, Tyler Stovall also addresses this misconception, noting that the statute was initially intended to honor the abolition of slavery, as I said, and the service of Black Union soldiers during the Civil War. Over time, its meaning shifted, overshadowing its original purpose. Now, he says the importance of historical accuracy. Understanding the true origins of the Statue of Liberty is not merely an academic exercise. It is essential for several reasons. And this veggie backs on to what Joy Degree was saying, Dr. Joy Degree. Recognition of African-American history. We got to recognize the truths about African-American history. Yes, African-American history is American history. But I don't even know if I like that. I don't really want to be grouped in with and aligned with American history. Because for me, and maybe it's because of, just the way history was taught to me, from my lens, American history is so raw. It's so dastardly. It's filled with so many evil instances. I don't want to be associated with American history. I'd rather have African American history be its own thing, but that's just me. But we need to have an awareness of systemic erasure. See, if we had this awareness, then we'd be able to call a spade a lot sooner. Nowadays, we can't call a spade until we hear the hard R at the end of the N word. Then we like, oh, he said it, it's time to go. But the more aware you are of history, of your own history, especially of your history in this belly of the beast, the more you are able to see the character and the personality, the mindset and the intention of the hard R at the end of the N word, whether they ever use the N word. Because them folk that's been shutting down DEI, them folk that's been shutting down critical race theory, them folk like Ron DeSantis in Florida that's saying that y'all can't teach nothing about Black history unless it includes the idea that we were just workers. Then you realize, oh, that's a hard R person. He ain't never got to say the word. I see his mind. But you can't get to that understanding and awareness without an appropriate understanding and a full breadth of the knowledge of Black history. Recognizing how the statue's meaning was altered sheds light on broader patterns of cultural and historical erasure. Now, I said on this program a couple of times, when you hear the word erasure, understand what's going on. They're talking about elimination. They're talking about genocide. And I ain't being hyperbolic. When you erase something, you're getting rid of it. Genocide is to get rid of. You can have a cultural genocide, you can have a physical genocide. Now, so this Statue of Liberty was really ours, or supposed to be for us. So symbolism as a weapon. I kind of said this already, but it bears repeating. Because Dr. Welsing spent her life breaking down how white supremacy manipulates symbols to control narratives. So this Statue of Liberty that we're talking about, it's one of their finest tricks. First, they stole it from us. Then they rebranded it. And now, well, first they stole it from us and then they rebranded it. Ain't this like the culture vulture syndrome that we see with hip hop? Ain't this like the cultural appropriation that we see like with African American women and their hairstyles? We see this all the time. Why? Because this is where we live. This is who we live with. This is what they do. And now they got black MAGA grifters out here telling us to ignore our own history and align with the people who would have fought to keep us in chains. They actually had people telling you vote for the guy whose family was connected and associated with the Ku Klux Klan because he'd be a better candidate than someone who had some kind of Indian, Jamaican mixed ancestry. And you see what you got. Shout out to the 92% of black women that didn't fall for that gook. Shout out to the 80% of black men that didn't fall for that gook. Shout out to, I believe it was, now I'm going to get my numbers wrong. It was either 55% or it was 45% of the Latin community that didn't fall for that gook. It may have been 45. So a lot of us didn't fall for that mess, but some of us did. The black MAGA betrayal. They fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Black conservatives who like to play dress up, cosplay in GOP's political circus, caping for people who wouldn't spit on them if they were on fire. Y'all know who I'm talking about, Candace. Y'all know the names, Byron, Philip, Tariq, Yvette, and the rest of the league of YouTube all-star grifters have the audacity to tell black audience that DEI is racist. That's not like a slave telling you ain't no need to leave in the plantation. We got it good here. If DEI is racist because, hiring black people on purpose, that's the new oppression. They want to tell you that HR 40, the reparations bill that studies it, is a scam. One, you can miss me with that. But then two, okay, so maybe am I gonna contradict myself? I might. Here's the contradiction. Do I support HR 40? Yes. Do I think HR 40 is a strong enough bill? No. So then why do I support HR 40? Find me a Republican that's pushing the platinum plan that Donald Trump promised us. If I don't support HR 40, what am I going to support? If I don't push for HR 40, what am I going to push for? I can't just say, I want my reparations check. Okay, how you going to get it? There's got to be something legislatively done to get it. And it ain't that $5,000 check that Elon say he going to send everybody. I'll take that $5,000 check. I'll take it as soon as it comes. But that ain't reparations. So HR 40 is the bill. I'm glad that now I'm gonna mess up her name. Congresswoman Presley has reintroduced it. But I would like to say for anybody that is really into politics, call Congressman Presley's office and tell them that you want them to edit HR 40 and shorten the length of time on the study so that they can get straight to the dissemination of the checks. That's what needs to happen. Ayanna Presley, Congresswoman Ayanna Presley. And they want to tell us that she and Joey Reid are race hustlers. I ain't never seen so much cooning in my life. But they love those black conservatives who out there caping for Trump, like Tim Scott. I love you, Donald Trump. And they ain't get no jobs once Trump won the office. Yeah, get in the back, nigga. Now, in recent times, there's been a concerted effort to dismantle DEI programs and suppress critical race theory in educational and corporate settings. These initiatives aim to address systemic inequalities and provide a more comprehensive understanding of history. And that's why they going at them. That's why they on the chopping block. So, okay, yeah, I'm switching. I thought you was going to be talking about the Statue of Liberty. That ain't the only thing I'm talking about. We shifting. I might come back to it. But I'm going to set some things straight now. Revising historical records. So the Statue of Liberty is just one of many examples. The age-old example is, I know, now I don't know how old anybody is that might be listening, but I know that there is a good number of us, especially in the older generation, that was taught Christopher Columbus discovered America. We still got a holiday that celebrates Christopher Columbus discovering America. So I know it's still taught, even though I ain't been in a school in a long time. But critical race theory challenges the falsehoods. So if you are one of those people that say we shouldn't be studying Black history only in February, that's what critical race theory is about. It's about correcting the record and introducing all the other truthful narratives into the curriculum all year. So it's no wonder that Republicans and MAGA folk are trying to get rid of critical race theory. They don't want the truth taught in any month of the year. But critical race theory challenges the myths like Christopher Columbus discovering America. Critical race theory is what presents the truth that Christopher Columbus was a European trafficker of humans, slave driver, murderer, and genocide agent. That's critical race theory. That's correcting the historical narratives, which is what Dr. Joy Degree and Tyler Stovall are working on or have worked on with the Statue of Liberty, correcting the narrative. Now you go jumping over to this corporate diversity training. I know a lot of us feel like, I don't care. I get it. If you're not in corporate America, probably wouldn't care. If you're not associated with, if you ain't got nobody in your family that's in corporate America, you don't care. It don't affect you. But this is part of the problem of being too American. We as Black people used to be a close, tight-knit community, a close, tight-knit nation. So we felt each other's pain all up and down the economic ladder. And you think I'm lying, you're thinking I'm making up. Go and do some research on Black Wall Street. Everybody like to holler, Black Wall Street. We had Black Wall Street. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, when we had Black Wall Street, one of the biggest reasons we had it is because we were a close, tight-knit community, wherein the Blacks that were in the upper class and the Blacks that were at the bottom of the lower class were all in the same close, tight-knit community. That's what created Black Wall Street. It wasn't just because doctors had money. It was because doctors had money and they pooled their resources with other doctors, other Black bankers, other Black businessmen. And they didn't create a gated community, and they didn't move into a gated white community. They stayed in the same area, and they all that money trickled down and went right back up. That's how that money was circulating within the community. So at that time, if there was such a thing as a DEI program and it was attacked, everybody would come together. Nowadays, we've gotten too much into this rugged individualism that America keeps pushing and promoting. But these DEI programs have encouraged companies to implement training sessions that address unconscious bias, leading to more inclusive hiring practices and workplace environments. And orangutan and muskrat have just about it's not complete, but they have thrown some Mike Tyson style blows to this entity, and it's on its last leg. Joy Reid getting fired is a manifestation of that. Um, it's a shame because once it's all gone, we ain't gonna have no black middle class if they get rid of it all. But that's part of the reason why we're supposed to be participating in this boycott. Is y'all gonna do that? Y'all joining this boycott? Shout out to everybody. I know I've been going for a minute. Let me station break myself. Let me throw my commercial out there. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Please come on over to youtube.com/@theproperperspective. Yes, youtube.com/@theproperperspective. That's for all my TikTok and my Instagram people. I really need y'all over here on YouTube. I really do. I prefer it over if you came over here, but hey, as long as the thing is rolling, it's rolling. Like, share, and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. If you are listening, if you are watching, especially on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. Let me throw that on the screen too. Like, share, and subscribe. You can even check out the merch. If you're on YouTube and you see the link to the merch, but like, share, and subscribe. Even educational curriculum reform. Schools had just begun to incorporate literature and historical accounts from diverse perspectives. Now, they may not have gotten around to fixing the stuff about the Statue of Liberty, and now they never will. But they had begun to change some of the information until Ron DeSantis got up and started nixing all of this pro-black radical black fact truth, which would have ensured that students receive a well-rounded understanding of the nation's past. You're going to have a whole nation of people, black, white, brown, red, and yellow, thinking that there was no slavery, that black people was never enslaved. They just were lazy, and when we and white folk put us to work. That's what the attacks on critical race theory is really about. Educational frameworks that explore systemic racism are under assault. It's going to get to a point where we really is everybody, all black people going to end up doing is we're going to be homeschooling everybody because the schools are going to be straight trash. They almost there now, I know, but they ain't quite there. Your child will learn how to read in the public school system at the very least. Your child will learn how to count in the public school system. I was a teacher, so I know how bad it is. I know how bad it can get, but I also know most of y'all would not be able to teach your child how to read. We got some people around here that can't read themselves, but that's another thing. So as we approach the generation where revisionist history is going to be the entire school curriculum, we're going to have to do some even more hard work. School curricula being altered to exclude discussions on slavery and its lasting impacts. And I don't mean just slavery. Like Coon Dog said, I'm tired of these slave movies. I ain't talking about just slavery. I'm talking about Jim Crow. I'm talking about sharecropping. I'm talking about the school to prison pipeline. None of this is going to be talked about in school anymore. Textbooks are being rewritten to refer to enslaved people as workers, minimizing and eliminating the idea of brutality of their experiences. The backlash against these programs, often spearheaded by what? Charismatic and or political figures. Now, I know for me, that's like a jagged little pill to swallow. I can't imagine somebody saying that orangutan is charismatic. But if you look at his cult following, hey, the proof is in the pudding. They seek to maintain a sanitized version of history, effectively erasing the contributions and experiences of marginalized communities. This is why nobody knows that the Statue of Liberty was something that was designed, I can't say erected, but it was definitely designed with us in mind. Now, I got a question or maybe a statement, and it relates. Like, does anybody know why all of this stuff is going on? Like, now, you may be of the political left and you think it was a great thing that Obama was elected into office. You may be on the political right and you think it's a bad thing. You could be radical and think that it was a good or bad thing. But I'm going to say this. Obama being elected in office scared the living out of the envelopians. And that's why we got what we got now. So I'm going to say it this way. The white man wants his country back. Plain and simple. All this stuff is going on. They're shutting down government agencies. Why? They know that the overwhelming majority of the black middle class got there not through corporate America, but through government America. The overwhelming majority of black middle class people got there through working for the government. It's no wonder they're trying to shut it down. The white man wants his country back. The white man wants his country back. So shutting down the government, closing up offices, not allowing people to come to work, sending emails saying explain what you did or you're going to get fired. This is all that mask, that cover up of the hard R folk on the N word. They're just dressing it up and disguising it because they don't think you're going to recognize it. So now in 2025, we're watching muskrat and orangutan gut every bit of middle-class black progress like plantation owners pissed about an uprising. DEI is about to be dead. CRT is about to be erased. Yeah, the message is loud and clear. The white man wants his country back. Shout out to anybody. If you could tell me, I reworked that little phrase. If you could tell me what hip hop icon I got, I'm referencing. If you could tell me what hip hop icon I'm referencing and what song, super shout out. Let's see. Let me see. Now, Amber J says this sounds like a petty breakup. Okay, now I'm gonna really need to know what you're talking about. What you mean, Amber J? This sounds like a petty breakup. So Tyler Stovall, again, that black historian, he's made some comments on this whole Republican MAGA takeover, and I think they bear sharing. He says the J6 rioters' defense of freedom, because that's what they said. They said they was running down there to defend freedom. So they stormed the Capitol and was trying to hang Mike Pence, and they spread feces on the walls, and they broke the windows, and they took guns from policemen's hands because they were defending freedom. And Tyler Stovall says, yeah, this is clearly a battle for white freedom. A struggle to preserve white privilege. A struggle to preserve racial dominance in a changing nation. For those involved in that invasion, seizing the Capitol epitomized their determination to reclaim the freedoms that what they call a corrupt government, and they only called it corrupt because it now embraces too much multicultural character, had taken away from them. So this is Tyler Stovall's analysis of what's going on. And like I said, I think that bears sharing and discussing even. Must ban DEI from his companies like it was a security risk. Never mind the risks of him invading government offices and replacing their servers with his very own. Never mind the fact that some of the courts have already said you can't do that. Some of the courts have already said that's against the law. It's a great victory in a legal sense, but they haven't gotten around to the punishment zone. What are you? Okay, it's against the law. What you gonna do that he's already done it? It doesn't matter that it's against the law. He's already done it. What are you gonna do now? He already has access to everybody's private information. Okay. So Amber J says, it sounds as if America broke ties with somebody and now they're getting rid of all this old BS. Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. And I would say yes. Like, I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but if we look at the DEI and we look at the CRT, I will say it this way. Not that they got started um, after George Floyd's murder and assassination, state-sponsored assassination, but they were given the biggest green light ever because of the George Floyd assassination and because Black people rallied, protested, and made demands, and the way in which the Black Lives Matter campaign, I'm not talking about the organization. I know a lot of y'all got beef with the organization. I got beef with the organization. I ain't talking about the organization. I'm talking about the real Black people that were in the streets, shutting down highways because of it. The way in which the real grassroots movement took off, and even the wildfire of it spreading and globally, other countries were picking up the news and reporting on it. Because of that, which is like the closest that we've gotten to the civil rights march movement that embarrassed America so much that they felt like they had to give in and give us something. That's what the Black Lives Matter era did. It embarrassed America so much that they felt like they had to give up something. So because of that, to save face all around the world, look, here what we're going to do. We're going to start hiring more Black people. We're going to set up mentoring programs so the ones that's here do actually get a fair shot at promotions. That's what diversity, equity, and inclusion started out. It was the big green light because they already knew they weren't doing anything. They already knew they were holding us back. And George Floyd's assassination just ripped the lid off. So DEI, CRT were giving the green light. Just go out there and fix it. Go out there and make us look better. So, and this always happens. So just like right after emancipation, we had what they call the Reconstruction era. Why? Because they were embarrassed. The whole Civil War, the fight itself, the ending of it, the loss, the lives lost, the global reporting on it, we got to do something. We got to make it look like we're trying to do the right thing. So we had the Reconstruction era. And once they saw, like within 10 years, they saw, we never thought them Black people was going to make such progress. This is getting out of hand. They were never meant to make these kinds of strides. They shut it down. They went in the back and had a private whites only meeting because there were Blacks all in Congress. They weren't invited to that cookout. They had a whites only meeting. And when they came out, that was the end of the Reconstruction era. Started shutting everything down the same way they shutting down DEI and CRT today. So yeah, once they realized that they now have saved face, they've been given grace. Well, it did what it could, and now they're breaking up with it and getting rid of it. Now, I'm not necessarily sure that's exactly how Amber J meant it, but that's how I took it. So yeah, Musk banning DEI from his companies. We all know that the Trump campaign openly embraced white nationalism. It's one of the reasons I really couldn't understand why. Like, I'm not a Democrat. Now, you can say I'm liberal. You can say I'm progressive. Some would say I'm radical. But I would never pledge allegiance to the Democrats. But I would never vote for someone that the Ku Klux Klan thinks is a good candidate for the country. He openly embraced Klanism, white nationalism. And black conservatives were just licking it up, sucking it up. They smiled and nodded, danced, rapped on stage at the inauguration. And now you see the corporations slashing their diversity programs under the guise of fairness. Corporate mentorship programs aimed at supporting minority employees are being defunded and shut down, limiting opportunities for professional growth. Now, again, I get it. If you're not in corporate America, you don't think it matters. But if you're not in corporate America, what happens when and if this happens in whatever work line of work that you are? White collar, blue collar, no collar. This is not new. This is the same playbook they ran with the Statue of Liberty. They took a symbol of black liberation and they warped it into something else. They wanted to call it a universal mascot, a mascot for whiteness. Now they're doing the same thing with policies that once benefited black people. Yeah, DEI was originally supposed to specifically be for black people, just like the Statue of Liberty was originally supposed to be just for black people, just about black people. But America can't have that. That's why you got Trump offering reparations to South Africans. They can't do nothing for black people, not unless we make them. And most of us ain't really ready for that smoke. Most of us ain't really ready for that smoke. Okay. I'm being told that I'm about to get shut down on TikTok. Okay, TikTok is back. Instagram is still here. Shout out to Colazzo 7953, Stoopy Mom, and Mr. Wit 90 on Instagram. I can't really see any of the folk. Let me see. Can I see the people on TikTok? Shout out to Calden, Mac, Ulum, Galadon, Luke, and anybody else. If I didn't see your name, I do apologize for that. So again, like I said, it's nothing new. The same thing that they're doing with DEI and CRT and birthright citizenship is what they did to the Statue of Liberty. They took that black symbol and started reworking it into something for everybody. They love rewriting history. They love shifting the narrative. And then they want to keep us in a position where we got to be grateful for crumbs. Now, I'm going to give a shout out to another scholar who recently passed, so he's now an ancestor, Dr. Alvin Poussant. I believe he transitioned yesterday. May he rest in peace and black power. Dr. Poussant, whose roles at Harvard Medical School over 5 decades included being the founding director of the Office of Recruitment and Multicultural Affairs. He has something to say about white supremacy. Now, if the name sounds familiar to you, it should. If it don't, I could understand it because it's pretty much a generational thing. If you grew up in my generation, then the Cosby Show might be familiar to you. At least one of the Cosby shows. Cosby been running for so long, he done had several Cosby shows. But I'm talking about the Huxtables. Cosby Show with the family of the Huxtables is where Dr. Alvin Poussant did some significant work, and his name began to ring bells a little bit more. He was already a prominent knockout scholar before he jumped on board with that show. And I don't care if you mad about the whole Cosby fiasco. I'm not. I'm a supporter of Dr. Bill Cosby, always and forever. I ain't believe none of that mess. But Dr. Poussant, as the director of the Office of Recruitment and Multicultural Affairs and a leading scholar, he said this about white supremacy, which is very interesting. He said it is a pathology that couldn't be swept away by laws or protests alone. This is very important. Because too often we think we do the work, we get the job done, we get the goal, we get the objective established, and now it's time to relax. I will have you know, from the moment Roe v. Wade was decided, now I don't care if you don't, this ain't about whether you agree or disagree with it. I'm just going to let you know, from the day that the Roe v. Wade decision came down, the side that lost that legal battle began fighting in court to chip away and destroy it from that very day. They got long goal plans. They don't care if it takes them 40 years, they're going to get rid of it one way or the other. That's their goal. Now, if you're joining me on TikTok, my phone's about to die. I would love it if you came on over to youtube.com/@theproperperspective so that you can continue this build. Because my phone's about to die. I just seen the little notification came on and I don't have a power cord. So Instagram, you're good. I would still rather you come on over to youtube.com/@theproperperspective. But I say that to say I'm in favor of protests. I'm in favor of changing laws. I'm in favor of boycotts. But we cannot be under the impression that we boycott, we protest, we show them, and everything is set right. No, we have to remain vigilant always and forever, because you're not going to get rid of pathology just because you change a law. More specifically, he says that this pathology was a part of the way the country saw itself, the way it sees itself. America sees itself as a white nation, a white Christian nation. So anytime America sees that its whiteness, that its white Christianity is slipping away, oh, they're going to push back. It's like their back is against the wall. That's the last time you don't want to be in the way of a caged beast when it wants its freedom. He said the way people behaved and established their own sense of worth in America is a pathology, because it's based on America's based on its self-worth is invested in using blacks and other groups in exploitive ways as scapegoats. In an essay in Clinical Psychiatry News in 2015, this ain't that long ago, after a white gunman killed 9 black churchgoers at a Bible study in Charleston, South Carolina, y'all remember, Dr. Poussin called on the American Psychiatric Association to clearly define extreme racism as a mental health disorder. So that, he batting on 1,000. He go up against the giants. Now, clearly, because the American the American Psychiatric Association is not dominated, is not controlled by black people, they said, yeah, we'll take it under advisement, and did nothing. But that ain't even the point. The point is, this scholar saw the problem and began to address it in very clear psychiatric terms. All of this brings me to what I just said. Why I am in favor of the boycott. Are you in favor of the boycott? That's what I want to know. If you in the chat, tell me, do you plan on participating in this boycott that's starting on in 2 days on February 28th? See if I can pull this thing up. See if I can share my screen. Where we at? Okay, so here we go. Consumers are boycotting major retailers. I'm sharing my screen and reading this article. Here's what they plan for blackout on February 28th. Consumers are rallying to speak through their wallets, or lack thereof, of spending as a way to protest the retreat by some companies from diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and orangutans' actions to eliminate federal DEI programs. They are calling on consumers to boycott specific retailers and for one day later this month to refrain from spending any money at all, February 28th. Numerous social media accounts are sharing the message of a 24-hour consumer spending blackout planned for February 28th. Consumers are encouraged not to spend money in stores or online for the day. And if they have emergencies or essentials they need, they are encouraged to support local small businesses. It is unclear which organization started the February 28th blackout, but several Instagram posts by a group called The People's Union and its founder, who goes by the Instagram handle The One Called Jai, have been reshared and circulated about the February 28th one-day blackout. From Bud Light to Target, boycotts take off. I'm not going to read the whole article. I'll share the link. In the chat if anybody wants to read it. So I'll drop the link in the chat. The link is in the chat, family. The link is in the chat. And let me stop sharing my screen. Again, I just want to push the idea a little bit on my channel in my neck of the woods. I hope y'all are going to participate in the boycott. I'm participating in it. I haven't been to Walmart since before the election, not since the election, since at least the election. I think in November was the first time I heard somebody saying we need to boycott Walmart, and they laid out all the reasons. I'm like, yep, I ain't going back. I ain't been to Target. I ain't been to Starbucks. Ever since I found out people was calling for boycotts, and the reasons is most of these companies, they had their opportunity to support the non-racist, the non-fascist candidate. And they said, no, we're going to double down. We want that dude in office. We want that Nazi saluting hate monger in office. Well, then you don't want my dollars. Now, what comes of it, we shall see. You're going to have a whole lot of naysayers saying ain't no point. And I'm like, well, if there ain't no point, hey, go have your party. You know, if you are biblically minded, a lot of fools told Noah, won't no point to build that boat. Meanwhile, we got Joy Reid, one of the few mainstream Black voices holding power to account, just got fired from MSNBC. And I thought they were supposed to be the liberal people. That's supposed to be the liberal network. So in what many see as a move to purge unapologetically Black voices from journalism, or at least from the mainstream side of journalism, if that doesn't tell you that they're tightening the noose on Black voices, I don't know what will. In schools, they're trying to get rid of the truth. In corporations, they're trying to make sure no Black people get any upward mobility promotions. They don't want a Black voice on TV. They don't want a Black voice on cable news. And Joy Reid has been a prominent advocate for reparations. This is, again, why it really blows me when you have these Black MAGA conservatives. You know, they online laughing and ridiculing Joy Reid for getting fired. They online telling us not to support Joy Reid. But they also online telling us that we need to be fighting for reparations. Find me the Black MAGA Republican conservative in talk radio, on MSNBC, on CNBC, on CNN, that's in favor of reparations. Joy Reid they fired her, and you won't make fun of her. Something up with your COINTELPRO minded self. But Joy Reid has been a prominent advocate for reparations and has consistently supported Black communities throughout her career. In November 2024, she criticized orangutan for proposing policies that she interpreted as reparations for white people. But you ain't hear the Black MAGA people talking about that. His vow to fight DEI, his promise to save the white South African, In addition, Joy Reid was the co-executive producer of a documentary called The Big Payback, which chronicles the fight for reparations for slavery in the United States from day one. But they want us to make fun of her. They want us to take joy in her being fired. Well, who else gonna be talking about reparations on MSNBC? It ain't gonna be Michael Steele. Now, again, thank you for tuning in. YouTube.com/at the proper perspective. I say all that to say, let me move on into my next segment. Because what I want you to know, what I want you to realize, what I do when I do these shows, I'm trying to impart some wisdom. I'm trying to impart, the name of the show is The Proper Perspective, because I'm trying to analyze information and give a better take, give a better view on some things. So part of what I do, just as I give a shout out to an ancestor, just as I give a shout out to an elder, I give a shout out to from whence we came. Our ancestors, and I don't mean I don't mean right now, like when I say an ancestor shout out, for the most part, that's usually the FBA ancestor. That's the African American that's been working tirelessly in their career to benefit our community. But I also give a shout out to the ancestors from the continent, from the motherland, from Africa, from the groups of people from whence we came. We are a gumbo people in that respect. We came over here in those chains on those ships. One of those ships in 1555 was named Jesus, but y'all don't want to talk about that. But our ancestors were of the Yoruba ethnicity, were of the Akan ethnicity, and so on and so forth. And they warned us about these cycles of erasure, these cycles of elimination, these genocidal battles, this betrayal that will befall us. They imparted wisdom through proverbs, African proverbs, West African proverbs, most of which white folk hoped that they had cut us off from through the chattelization process and forced, plantationized Christianization of our minds, our bodies, our souls, our spirits. But one thing is funny about DNA, you can't erase it. The root always comes back. Our heritage remains intact. They can't change that DNA. Much of that wisdom resonates with the current political discourse on symbolism and erasure. How do I know? Because I did the research. In the words of the Yoruba, the child who does not cry will not be fed. What does that mean? If we don't cry, if we don't make noise, if we don't make a fuss about the things that's going on, we will not be fed. We will not get what we deserve. This proverb underscores the necessity of voicing truths to bring about change. You have to speak up. So now this goes also for the we sitting it out crowd. Now I may get some shots for this because I'm guilty of it too, though. I've been doing it. I've been taking liberties. I've been enjoying some of the things that I see. I've been sipping my tea and laughing during the whole FAFO phase. But we got to make sure we keep our eyes open while we sip this tea. I like chamomile tea myself. Because we will have to stay ready and be ready to jump back into this fight when they decide to start hunting us more directly. But I digress. So let me pull this back. The FAFO phase. I know y'all seen those. You've seen many of the videos. People, the white folk, the Latin folk crying. I didn't think they was gonna come for me. We need y'all help. White tears, brown tears. But I digress. So let me hit you with a little bit more ancient African wisdom. There's another ethnicity that is within our midst called the Fula or the Fulani, West Africa, Nigeria. And the Fula say, A cutting word, is worse than the cut of a bowstring. Because a cut from a bowstring may heal, but the cut of the tongue does not. A cutting word is worse than a bowstring. The cut from the bowstring may heal, but the cut from the tongue does not. Now, this little jewel highlights the enduring impact of harmful narratives and the importance of addressing them. You know, that's real similar to what they used to say. Well, we said as kids, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Same thing, as I said, you can try to cut a people off from their root, but the root always come back. I can cut my hair all I want to, but it's going to come back. Brothers in the 80s and 90s used to say, you can perm your hair all you want to, sister, but the nap is going to come back. So as an appropriate translation, just because they slap a new label on racism, don't mean it's gone. A Klansman in a Proud Boys t-shirt instead of a white hood. A skinhead will grow his hair back and put on a Versace business suit and run for Senate. Y'all follow me? And even the Ewe have a proverb that relates to our situation. A bird that allows itself to be caged has no right to complain about the hunter. A bird that allows itself to be caged has no right to complain about the hunter. Shout out to the Ewe. Shout out to the Yoruba. Shout out to the Fulani, which is shout out to the Africans within our DNA, because we are our ancestors and they are us. So now, if we do too much sitting back during this FAFO phase, then we have nothing to complain about when the hunter locks the gate. Sooner or later, we're going to have to be like, all right, look, okay, enough is enough. Get that right. Okay, enough is enough. If we let them erase our history, if we continue to let them erase our history, if we let them continue to silence our voices, for instance, by not joining the boycott, for instance, by not voicing outrage with MSNBC for firing Joy Reid. I mean, personally, I was done with them when they let go of Tiffany Cross. I certainly have no reason to watch them now. But if we continue to allow them to rewrite our struggle, teaching our children that we were migrants, workers, employees, not enslaved Africans in a chattelization system, we have no one to blame but ourselves. Now, I was furtively against Kanye West when he said slavery was a choice, at least on the surface. And I know he tried to back it up and fix it and correct it and make you understand what he was getting at. I ain't what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is now, today, there may very well be a new slave era coming. And if it does, it is definitely our choice if we get re-enslaved. We have all the means, we have all the tools to maintain security of our communities and liberation of our communities. And that's what we're going to have to start looking at. So now, in conclusion, reclaiming our symbols, reclaiming our history. They stole the Statue of Liberty from us. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The two white guys that was designing it, it was their intent for it to be for us. They designed it. They sent it on over. They were told, "Oh, this ain't popping." They stole the meaning of freedom from us. And now they want to erase every policy, program, and person that reminds them that they can't own us anymore. Now, if you really into hip hop, or if you've been into hip hop for since the golden era, then you know who Sister Soldier is. And Sister Soldier said, we are at war. This is war. All wars aren't fought with ammunition, with physical bullets, with tanks, with planes. Sanctions is an economic war. Tariffs is an economic war. We are at war. The only question is, are we ready to fight back? Understanding the authentic history of the Statue of Liberty is more than an academic exercise. It's a crucial step in acknowledging and rectifying the systemic erasure of the Black experience. Now, as contemporary movements challenge the dismantling of DEI initiatives, that's what the boycott is supposed to be about. The boycott is to challenge corporate America's insistence or allowance of the elimination of DEI. They have Black people on the payroll who themselves may never get a promotion without the DEI program being in place. So challenging the dismantling of these initiatives and the marginalization of Black voices, it's imperative to recognize and resist the ongoing manipulation of symbols and narratives. Statue of Liberty is a symbol, DEI is a narrative. By reclaiming these symbols, now we can't go up to the Statue of Liberty and reconstruct it. But if you are in New York and if you're in the tourist-minded river, then when you take a visit to the Statue of Liberty, you should be able to say, wait a minute, come here. I got a question for the guide. What's up with these chains? What's the real story? Now, if you're not a tourist-minded person, that's fine. I ain't saying you got to get on I-95 and take a trip to New York. But you can share this information. You could share this whole video. I'd appreciate that too. But you can share this information. Dr. Joy Degree, for one. Tyler Stovall, for one. I showed you the link, and the link is in the description. So by reclaiming these symbols and their true meanings, we honor the struggles and triumphs of those who came before us and paved the way for a more inclusive and truthful representation of history. That's all there is to it. Now, that's my spiel. That's my proper perspective. That's my take. That's my show. Now, usually I get a couple of people in the chat that want to challenge me and say, I don't know what I'm talking about. I still appreciate your presence, but what I do is I will say, if you want to join the conversation, then I'll put the link in the chat. I'll do the invite guest thing, and I will say, hey, you can come on live and we can further the conversation. But tonight was a little different because nobody really, like Amber J was dropping some knowledge, but we were kind of in sync. So that's great. I love it. I love it when people are in sync with me. But I don't mind people that disagree or whatever. So the link is in the chat if you want to get on here and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. But otherwise, I try not to run my show but for so long unless we're really gonna just jump and do a whole lot of different topics or whatever. So otherwise, if nobody wants to join along, I thank you for listening. I thank you for paying attention on Instagram. I thank you for paying attention on TikTok. Again, youtube.com/@theproperperspective is where I do. That's my home base, so to speak. If there's nothing else to say, then what I'm gonna do is share my screen, play my outro, play my theme, and get ready to get on out here for the night. Happy Black History Month. Like I said, I give a shout out to an elder, I give a shout out to an ancestor, and I give a shout out to the African ethnicities that make up the African American experience. We are African people having an American experience. Let me say that. We are an African people having an American experience. Now, I said that on two of my screens. I'm going to come back to one more before I hit the outro. Stop sharing for a second. Now, just so I'm on the big screen, we are an African people having an American experience. Let that sink in for you. And now it is theme music time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you, family, for listening, paying attention. Shout out, holla, stay tuned, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button, leave a note, leave a comment in this comment section, and I will be probably coming back to you tomorrow around 7 o'clock. Between 7 and 8 is when I usually get on, but I'll be back tomorrow with another explosive expose. Feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share this with somebody that you know would get a kick out of it or find interest in it.
Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective.